Hello and welcome to this week's news roundup from PEI. I'm Kelvin Ross. In this week's headlines, a report from the World Bank calls for sweeping reforms to India's power sector, a coal plant in the Philippines is set for major expansion, the UK Nuclear Decommissioning Authority has increased its estimated cost of cleaning up Britain's nuclear power plant waste, and 2 European banks unveil funds that target renewable energy projects. A report by the World Bank has concluded that power distribution in India needs sweeping reforms if the country wants to hit its electricity growth targets. The Indian government wants all of its population to have access to electricity by 2019, but the bank says that distribution to the end consumer is the weakest link in the power sector. While acknowledging that many great strides have been made by the country's energy sector in recent years, the bank is calling for urgent reforms. It says that the power sector, which has needed 2 central government bailouts in recent years, is in a fragile state of financial health and has limited ability to invest in delivering better services. Total accumulated losses in the sector stood at $25 billion in 2011, and these were overwhelmingly concentrated among distribution companies and bundled utilities. The World Bank's recommendations for overhauling the industry include ensuring that state governments pay subsidies transparently, utilities should be freed from government interference, and banks and lenders should hold utilities accountable for efficient operation and not lend to those who are not creditworthy. The bank also wants to see regulators transparently revise tariffs in line with efficient costs, and it's also demanding that central government pledge that it will grant no future bailouts. The largest coal producer in the Philippines is to fund a major expansion of one of its plants, as it forecasts an upswing in profit from investing in power generation over the next 3 years. Semirara Mining Corporation will increase the capacity of Calaca Power Plant by 350 megawatts to bring it to a total of 1,200 megawatts. The company says it may sign a syndicated loan for 70% of the cost of the expansion as soon as the next quarter. The Philippines saw power demand rise by 50% in the 10 years to 2012, more than 3 times the 16% increase in generation capacity over the same period. The UK Nuclear Decommissioning Authority has put a price tag of £110 billion on cleaning up Britain's nuclear power plant waste. The figure is £6.5 billion more than first thought, with the site at Sellafield alone accounting for £79 billion of the total sum. NDA Chief Executive John Clark said the increase reflected the cost of additional work at Sellafield, which has an annual budget of £1.8 billion and is the largest of the 19 sites which the agency is responsible for. Nuclear Management Partners, the consortium managing the Sellafield cleanup, comprises US company URS, Arriva from France and AMEC of the UK. The consortium won a £22 billion 17-year contract to decommission Sellafield in 2008. 2 banks have unveiled plans to launch major renewable energy funds. French state bank CDC has set aside €5 billion for green energy projects as France seeks to raise its share of renewable energy to 32% by 2030, compared with about 14% in 2012. £2.5 billion will go towards making buildings more energy efficient, another £2 billion will be spent on cleaner transport, and £500 million will be for renewable energy production. Meanwhile, the UK's Green Investment Bank has launched a £1 billion fund to attract private investors to offshore wind farms in Britain. The fund's intended to drive equity stakes into operational projects, and the bank is looking for a group of strategic long-term co-investors. In a statement, the bank said that it's vital for developers such as large utilities to be able to refinance part of their investments in operating assets to then reinvest in new developments. It added that equity investments in operational wind farms offer a compelling opportunity for investors seeking long-term inflation-linked returns such as sovereign wealth and pension funds. That's all for this week. Don't forget to follow PEI on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. We'll see you again soon.